Hello everyone, welcome to another Ares Academy video here. Apologize for the delay in between videos, had a whole bunch of stuff going on, including all of my replays not working, so I apologize for taking so long, but I'm finally back and finally get to put up my thoughts and layout for the Russian Battleship Lenin, which you see here. She is the Tier 8 Premium Russian Battleship. Lots of fun, but I'll get into it a little bit later, my thoughts on it. But first we'll jump right into modules, captain skills, and everything like that, and the way I outfit mine. As for your modules, I actually take auxiliary armaments mod here. I don't have any issues with my turrets getting knocked out, so I'd rather keep my anti-air guns active as much as I can, with especially with all the carriers out and about these days. Slot 2, damage con, pretty straightforward there. Slot 3, I do take the anti-aircraft mod again. The anti-air on this ship is actually pretty decent, especially if you take the points for it. Damage con again in slot 4, and then you'll want concealment here in the 5th slot, because you are spotted from space if you don't. So that's the way I have mine outfitted. As far as your consumables go, it's pretty standard. You've got a fighter, repair party, and damage control. The big difference here, if you're not familiar with the Russian battleships, is your damage control parties are limited. You have a limited number of them, so make sure you use the premium version of this to get an extra charge. That is a big deal on the Russian battleships, so just keep that in mind. And as we move on over to the captain skills, you'll see how I've got mine laid out. First skill, preventative maintenance, followed by adrenaline rush. You want to get that reload down as much as you can, and then superintendent is a must on the Russian battleships. And then I went ahead and took concealment expert first, followed by fire prevention, and then you can take advanced firing training for the extra AA, followed by the extra fighter if you want to go full anti-air build to deal with CVs. Alternatively, you can go survival and take basics of survivability along with high alert. Again, the most important part of this build with your captain skills is superintendent. Again, because you have the limited damage control parties, superintendent is going to give you an extra charge. That is a must. So even if you kind of want to spec it a bit differently than what I've got here, make sure you've got superintendent in there somewhere. I know a lot of people will take fire prevention instead of concealment. My issue with that is your range on this ship is only 18 kilometers, and a lot of tier 10s can outrange you, meaning they can shoot you and you can't even shoot back. I'm looking at a lot of the cruisers. So the longer you go undetected and can get into those optimal firing ranges for the Russian battleships, the better. Which is why I take concealment first and then fire prevention. Also, fire prevention, I don't know. I don't know if it's just the games I played, but I'm still getting double fires constantly. So I don't even know if fire prevention's really doing all that much for you, but it is definitely worth taking at some point, just because of the way the ship is set up. But if you don't mind dealing with planes, or if you've got division mates that do AA, then feel free to change out those AA perks in yellow there for the blue ones and just go for full survival. But that's the red and yellow is how I have mine, with the blue being a nice alternative there for your captain skills. Alright, and as far as the exterior options to this ship go, pretty straightforward affair. You've got two camo options right now, one being the premium Russian camo here, that I believe comes with the bundle for Lenin. And then you've also got the standard premium camo if you bought just the regular version, or if you earned the ship another way. The bonuses are the same on the two camos, so one isn't inherently better than the other. It's purely a cosmetic difference, so pick the one that you go with, that you like the most rather. And that's the one we go with here because, I mean, well, just look at it. As far as the differences between Lenin and Vlad go, the most noticeable difference is in the armor layout. You'll see here the Lenin gets this little bit extra protection of belt armor that goes extends all the way to the tip of your bow, whereas the Vlad does not. It stops about halfway down your bow there. That's the most noticeable difference. Pretty much everything else about the two ships, armor-wise, are pretty similar. I mentioned the anti-air a bit earlier. You can see it here. The anti-air is actually very strong on these ships if you put some points into it, which I've done on my Lenin here. I actually have my Vlad set up the same way. Definitely worth doing, especially with the amount of aircraft carriers that are in the game right now. The other obvious difference between Lenin and Vlad is the turret layout. The Vlad plays more like an Iowa, where you kind of just forget about your back turret, whereas the Lenin, with the 3 turrets on the front, all forward facing, you can actually get all 3 of your turrets in the fight more often than not. But other than that, the ships are very similar. And as we transition into the gameplay here, you'll see some of the strengths and weaknesses of the ship, and I'll also talk about my thoughts overall on if the ship is worth it or not. But the ship is fun. Let me just start with that. The ship is very fun. It is a lot of fun to play, especially with the front turret layout. Makes this ship interesting. If you're not familiar with the Russian battleships, at least the tech tree ones and this premium here, ideally they're suited for medium to close range engagements with their dispersion, and then at your long to max range, your dispersion really suffers. And that holds true for Lenin for the most part. You will have the occasional long range tight grouping of your shells, and you'll have the occasional close range scatter shot, but for the most part, if you get a ship anywhere in that 6 to 10 kilometer range, you're going to be able to land a lot of shell hits. And with the penetration values of your guns, you can really do a lot of damage to battleships and some of the heavy cruisers that you might catch off guard. Some of your lighter cruisers at close range you will overpen, but hey, such is the life of a battleship. But you'll see here this Atago is kind of on the edge of that optimal range here, and we actually get pretty lucky with the back-to-back salvos there and take him out. But yeah, the Lenin, you'll see what I'm talking about with the turret angles, the turret layout here. We're actually, in instances where you have to stop and bow tank, or stop and reverse out of situations, the layout of the turrets on Lenin allows you to kind of just wiggle back and forth and keep all 3 guns in the fight because they're all forward-facing turrets, unlike, say, a Zumo, where the 3rd turret up front is actually rear-facing, which means it's not as effective. So, ship like Lenin, you can kind of wiggle back and forth, keep all the guns in the fight. If we were positioned here in the Vlad, we would only have our front 2 guns able to fire. So this is where the turret layout is a big plus for Lenin. You're able to keep all of your guns in the fight, which obviously helps. Here, in a match like this where we've got favorable matchmaking, we're actually high tier. A lot of the tier 6 and 7 battleships, especially the smaller caliber ones, Scharnhorst, Dunkirk, your French ships, they're just not really going to be able to hurt your bow armor. And you've seen we've already tanked quite a lot of shells, just deflections of AP. Where you get punished in the Russian battleships is if you get caught broadside. Your broadside armor is just not very good. So if you take any kind of AP shells while broadside, more than likely you're going to take massive citadels. You can be dev struck in these if you get caught broadside by, say, a Yamato or another higher tier battleship. If they land a full salvo on you, there's a good chance you could be one shot. I've had it happen, not in the Vlad or Lenin, but in the tier 7, the Senop. Made a tactical blunder and got caught broadside and took, I think, 4 or 5 citadels and just died. So keep that in mind. Your bow is your friend in these. You're also not the most maneuverable of ship. You're not the fastest or most nimble, so keep that in mind. Kind of plan your routes ahead of time if you can. If you get caught in a situation where you're surrounded by destroyers and you have to bob and weave a whole bunch, it's not probably going to work out well for you. These ships are more deliberate, so keep that in mind. But you'll see here this Dunkirk that has decided to Leroy Jenkins straight at us here is just no match for the Lenin. Now, part of that is the matchmaking. Obviously, we're, you know, high tier. He's not. His guns just can't do anything to us. Meanwhile, our guns can pretty much just laugh at him as we wreck him. So keep in mind, you know, matchmaking plays a big part in what you're doing here. If you get into a tier 10 match, you have to be really careful because a lot of those ships can just punish you. But yeah, so here comes the YOLO Dunkirk, and you'll see, you know, pretty much straight through the face there. Was that 12K? Just, and there's nothing the Dunkirk can do. So, you know, it looked like he might be trying to charge in and ram, so we start backing up, but he actually ends up going, I think he was going to try to ram the other ship, but he ends up going perfectly broadside to us, which a target this close broadside to a Russian battleship, I mean, you're just licking your chops, because this is where the ship really shines in situations like that. I mean, you can see the dispersion on the shells there. That's the ideal range, that close to medium range where you can just absolutely punish ships with your accuracy. But yeah, you can really start to see kind of how you want to play this thing. We're already almost at 100,000 damage. Don't pay attention to my bad aim there. So just kind of pick your engagements and try to get to the best range for these things. Again, is the medium to close range. So we've kind of secured this side of the map here. There's one lingering battleship here that we're going to try to take care of, and see if we can win the match here. Keep an eye on my anti-aircraft mounts. You'll see it in the lower left-hand corner there. The health of my AA mounts, because it's gonna play a role here. We haven't been focused by the carrier yet. But I mentioned the anti-air on this ship earlier. It is very strong if you can keep your anti-air mounts healthy. If you start losing AA mounts, like this, it really comes into play in the higher tier matches when you've got Conqueror or Henri or ships with those high caliber HE shells. You lose your anti-air mounts a good bit, even with auxiliary armaments mod, and then you're basically a sitting duck to carriers. But if your AA mounts are all at 100, you've got a good chance of defending yourself, especially with the fighter plane. But you'll see us here able to pretty much, you know, with the help of my team, take out the battleship here. And then it's a nice long ride across the map, which we'll fast forward through. But my overall opinions on the Lenin are, it's a fun ship, it's a good ship, but it is, to me, it's too similar to Vlad to warrant a purchase unless you buy, you know, you like premium ships, you like the look of it, you like the turret layout, you're a collector, or, you know, if you just buy every premium, then you're gonna get it anyways. But if you're a person that can only buy a premium here or there, and you were looking at a tier 8 battleship, and you could choose, you know, Lenin, Massachusetts, Tirpitz, you know, any of the other tier 8 battleships, they all offer unique play styles, unique differences to their tech tree counterparts. Lenin does not. The only difference is the turret layout and that little bit of an armor scheme difference. Other than that, they play exactly the same. Your strategy in the match is identical. Your, you know, the targets you shoot at, your optimal range, everything is the same between Lenin and Vlad. So to me, if you're, you know, if you're only able to buy a premium here and there, I would not take Lenin first. You know, Massachusetts has the secondaries. Tirpitz has torpedoes, you know, as compared to Bismarck and North Carolina. Even Key versus Amagi, Key's got the long-range torps and the dual-purpose secondaries for really good anti-air. All these ships are fundamentally, you know, have a gimmick, if you will, or a quirk that separates them from their tech tree counterpart. Lenin just doesn't. Like I said, the only difference is the unique design of the ship with the front turret layout. That's it. Now, if that's enough for you, then by all means. Like I said, it's not a bad ship. It's not It's not a, you know, underperforming ship or anything like that. It's just, it's almost the same as Vlad. So to me, if the tech tree ship is just as good as the premium version, it's not really something you're going to want to, you know, go out of your way to spend money on. Unless, like I said, you're a collector, someone that likes the premium ships, likes the Russian battleships, likes their play style, then it's another ship you can use. Plus, it's a good captain trainer. If you don't have the Tier 5 premium, the October, if you know, then go for it. But to me, the ships are just too similar in play style to warrant a purchase if you're not someone that buys premiums all the time. There's better options out there that are going to offer unique differences than their tech tree counterparts. So with that being said, again, I don't want you to misinterpret that as the Lenin is bad, it's not any good, it's not worth buying because it's underpowered. No, it's a very fun ship. It's a very good ship, especially in matches like this. It's a very fun ship. And if you like this play style, then absolutely go for it. But just in my opinion, to those people who aren't buying premiums all the time, you might be a bit disappointed because the tech tree ship plays exactly the same and the tech tree ship is free. You know, with this being a tier 8 battleship, it does, you know, it's not a cheap ship. You know, if this was like tier 4 or 5, then it might not matter, but at tier 8, it is a pretty hefty investment into a ship. So, you know, that's just my 2 cents on it. As far as, you know, would I recommend it? Yeah, it's a good ship. But again, like I said, if you don't have a Massachusetts, you don't have a Tirpitz, you don't have a Key, I would get those first because they have differences than their tech tree versions and offer a different style of gameplay, whereas this ship doesn't. So that's kind of just my thoughts on it. As this match wraps up here, you remember what I said about my AA mounts? It's now us versus 2 carriers, and most of my anti-air is gone in that medium range there, our close medium range, which is the most important range, because once the airplanes get through that outer flat cloud, I'm basically defenseless. So I'm gonna get just absolutely focused down here by these 2 carriers. If my anti-air mounts would have still been at 100%, there's a good chance I can survive to get around this corner up here and actually kill one of these carriers. Maybe, maybe not. But with 2 CVs attacking me, it's only, you know, we don't last all that much longer. But you see the importance of Superintendent here. I mentioned that earlier with your damage controls and repair parties, as well as the premium versions of those consumables. You need all the charges you can get. But yeah, with 2 carriers focusing you, there's not a whole lot you can do, especially with your AA mounts like this. But that opens up a whole nother can of worms and discussions about 2 carriers in one game, right? But we won't touch that here. But yeah, as far as the Lenin goes, I enjoy mine. I really do. You know, just, is it worth it for someone that only has limited, you know, chances to buy premium ships? Probably not. Is it worth it if you love Russian battleships, you collect premiums, or you just like the design? Yeah, absolutely. It's a good ship. It's going to do what it's supposed to do. You're not going to be disappointed at all. It's just, to me, it's too similar to the tech tree ship. Unless, you know, like I said, if you don't have Mass or Tirpitz or Key or any of the other tier 8s, get them first. But that's going to do it here for this Ares Academy. We're going to get finally whittled down here by these planes. Appreciate you watching, hanging out. Again, catch all the action live on Twitch. We do Kraken giveaways, yeah? But I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll be back again with some more videos soon. Thank you, and have a good one.